In the shadows deep where darkness weaves, a tale of terror silently breathes. In cobblestone streets where echoes creep, lurked Jack the Ripper in secrets steep. His victims, faceless in the dark, became the stars of a grim, cruel arc. Each life snuffed out, a candle's wane, their stories etched in sorrow's vein. Hello, Phantom Fam, and welcome to day 2 of Halloweek. As always, my friends, I'm Nat.
And I'm Kate.
And you are listening to Wading into the Void. We're going to just get right into it today because we got a lot to discuss.
Hell yeah, we do.
So, I'm just going to go through the Halloween Oracle for today. Halloween Oracle is by Stacy DeMarco.
Stacy!
And I wonder if it says anything else about, like, who illustrates it and stuff. Maybe I should start saying that? Oh.
Sure. The real question is, does Stacy's mom got it going on?
The artwork is by Jimmy Manton, which is the one who does...
What one does he do? Because I think it's not the first time we heard his name.
I think it's the Goddesses and Sirens? Maybe.
That feels right. The art style is similar.
So the card that we pulled today from the Halloween Oracle is Owl?
Woo! Woo-hoo! I was like, what noise does an owl make? I forgot.
Hey, bitch. No, I'm just kidding. All of those are not owl noises. But the owl represents wise seeing and wise action. And the little poem that went with it says, silent, winged, and wise, all-seeing creature of the night, show me the way, I will follow you in flight. So, as we know, owls, for thousands of years, have been a part of folklore and have been considered special or sacred in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. They usually represent wisdom, and we all know Athena. Her symbolism is the owl.
She sounds so excited.
You guys know how I feel about Athena, okay?
Yeah.
She is not for the bitches. She goes against girl code, okay? But regardless, should you see the owl around this time in Halloween, I guess. Halloween?
Yeah.
It says this Halloween if you find the owl.
Merry fucking Halloween, I guess.
But if you see the owl, it indicates the need for wise counsel or further information before you make a decision. Considered action is warranted. Think before you act emotionally, and ensure you think strategically and not impulsively.
The Oracle just told you to speak to your therapist. How do you feel?
Oh, me?
Oh, just the listeners in general.
I was like, everybody keeps telling me to go back to therapy.
I need to schedule an appointment with my therapist, Miss Kizzy, because I have not spoken to her in, 2 months.
Oh.
I met with her one time, and it was very enlightening, and then I...
ghosted her.
No, I'll go back. But I've been working on the things she told me, and it's been working, so...
Okay.
I don't feel like flinging myself off the top of a building, so I'm like, probably don't need her right now.
Yeah.
I know that's not how it goes, but mental states, what you gonna do? But I'm really fucking excited to hear your episode for today.
Oh, yeah.
So
all right.
Fucking excited.
Without further ado, let's get into today's episode.
Yeah, she's like, God damn, we doing it. Okay.
I got a lot to cover, and if we want to make this a palatable episode, We can't have any dilly-dallying. All right. The victims of Jack the Ripper, often referred to as the Canonical Five, were 5 women believed to have been murdered by the same perpetrator. The similar style of mutilation among each of these women made it clear that this person very clearly knew what they were doing when it comes to anatomy.
Yes.
So before we go any further, very big trigger warning, my friends. This episode is going to be extremely explicit and vile. I will be going into extreme detail for the sake of gathering all of our evidence in the case of Jack the Ripper.
Yes.
This episode will include various forms of violence towards women and extreme mutilation. That being said, let's take a look at our victims and how each of them met their demise.
What she said.
So, as we've
like,
already talked about...
Vile.
Huh?
You're like, vile. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. It's gross. And I've looked at all of the pictures from the crime scenes, and those poor women were so... Huh?
I haven't looked at them.
Well, maybe we can look through them together. I should have added pictures.
Yeah, we should look through them together. So what we'll do is, once you, like, cover it or whatever, then we'll take
look
a
up the picture. Yeah. So, we already discussed Mary Ann Nichols, the very first victim, in the previous episode, yesterday. So, you kind of have an idea already of how gross it's gonna get. But wait, that was just baby steps. Baby steps, my friends. So, just to recap, Mary Ann Nichols, aka Polly Nichols, was the first victim attributed to Jack the Ripper. Her body was found in Bucks Row in Whitechapel.
Yep.
She had been stabbed multiple times, with her throat slit so savagely that her head appeared to have been hanging on by a thread. Katie got into that one, like I said, very detailed in the previous episode, so I don't have to go back into it.
Yeah, I didn't give no trigger warnings. I'm just like, her nose was cut off. Her ears were cut off.
Yeah.
Her eyes were ripped out. So, apologies, I guess. But when you hear that we're talking Jack the Ripper...
You should kind of already know it's going to be fucked up. But I'll make sure to try and put, like, trigger warnings on the actual, like, Spotify description.
Yes.
Just in case.
I have a feeling that Nat's going to get a little bit more in-depth than I did yesterday, I guess.
Oh, I have, like, police or, like, doctor quotes of exactly them explaining what happened to the bodies. For, like, one or two of them. Yeah. So,
I'm like, let's keep it tasteful, and Nat's like, let's just fucking go!
Well, I think it's important to explain the extent of the bodily harm that they received, and that 90% of it was done after the fact they were already dead. So, you'll see...
Homie was sick.
Yeah, Homie was sick. You'll see a lot of similar, wounds or things that the killer does, and we'll kind of talk about it in the end a little bit. So let's start with our second victim. Her name is Annie Chapman. She died on September 8th, 1888. Her body was discovered in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street, also in Whitechapel, obviously. And like Nichols, she had also been brutally mutilated. Now, at the time, Annie was about 47 years old, described as short and plump, with an ashen face, and,
Annie's cute.
Annie's cute. She's just an old lady. We're not
saying 40s old.
Not old lady.
But
She's an older woman. Yeah, at that point, she was probably elderly.
She was, like, kind of at her wit's end then, you know? Like, today she'd be middle-aged, but...
Yeah. I know in 1888, most people died by the age of, like, 55.
So...
That's what we're saying.
She was kicking it, you know? She was doing good.
Yes.
I bet she was an adorable little, like, grandmother lady. It was fine. At least in looks, you know?
Mm-hmm. So, 4 or so months prior to her death, she'd been living at Crossingham's lodging house at number 35 Dorset Street, where she paid 8 pence a night for a double bed.
God fucking damn! I was like, yeah, yesterday they had to pay 4 to 6 pence for the fucking floor and a hammock. And
I don't know how she lucked out.
She found a fucking deal!
She got a bed.
8 pence. She got a whole ass double bed, okay?
Well, they might be like communal rooms. I don't know.
Oh, well.
With like beds, you know?
She
like
had
cots.
a bed.
Yeah, she definitely had a bed. She seemed to have good relationships with all the other tenants that lived there, and the deputy keeper, Timothy Donovan, remembered her as being, like, pretty inoffensive, pretty generally good to get along with, but her main weakness, as you'll see, is a common trait with these women, is that she had a very big issue with drinking.
Yeah.
She was an alcoholic.
I mean, and I'll play devil's advocate, okay? If you're living in Whitechapel, there ain't jack shit to do. You can't afford nothing. Fuck it, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, like many of the women in the area, and like many of the victims of Jack the Ripper, Annie tended to supplement her very meager income that she obtained from crocheting and making and selling artificial flowers.
She's fucking adorable, okay.
She supplemented that income with prostitution.
Still adorable, okay?
Honestly,
everyone has
fucking slay.
She was like a granny for the time, and she was still selling that puss. So I'm impressed, okay?
But also, I think it's cute. She just, like, crocheted and made fake flowers and had, like, an Etsy shop.
She did!
I love that for her. I don't love her outcome, though, but...
No, we feel bad for Annie. She was a G.
Yeah, definitely. She got along with everyone, she crocheted, she made flowers, and
she was
she was working that fucking puss. Like, what?
She was living, I was gonna say her best life, but
I mean, she lived a long life.
She did, you know?
So Annie had 2 regular clients, by the way, known as Harry the Hawker.
Oh!
And Ted Stanley.
Do we have any pictures or physical descriptions of Harry Hawker?
I don't think so, but this is really funny because, so they said that Ted Stanley was supposedly a retired soldier, and all the fellow lodgers called him the pensioner, and then when people started talking about Annie's death, they were like, nobody calls him that. So, I don't know if he made up his own nickname. I don't know. But I thought that was pretty funny. So,
he was like, I'm a war hero.
I'm the pensioner. I think...
Which is the worst nickname.
I think more people were making it up to make fun of him. Because the pensioner, he's a retired soldier. He's being paid pension from being a soldier. I don't know. But
I'm still stuck on Henry Hawker.
Henry the Hawker. It's spelled hawk, like the bird. Yeah. So is he a mercenary?
I'm just picturing a guy with a gigantic fucking nose.
I'm just picturing a dude with, like, really bad acid reflux. Like, he's gagging all the time. Like me, like 2 months ago. Like hawking up a loogie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am so sorry if you hear any of that. Can you hear it?
Yeah, what is that?
My father is going on a hunting trip tomorrow, out of state, and I'm so sorry.
Maybe just, like...
They're packing.
Yeah, I was gonna say...
I'll mute myself if I'm not gonna talk.
Yeah. So, let's get into the events that happened this night and what happened to Annie. So, A little before 6 a.m., John Davis, who is an elderly resident who lived in the area, he called basically people who were, like, walking on the street. He was like, hey, come here, to two work dudes, like, labor dudes. And he was like, come with me down this passageway. I just found something really weird. Like, let's go look at this.
That's not fucking sketchy.
I think he must have seemed scared enough where they were like, okay, something actually bad's going on.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't know what schizophrenia was, so who were they to suspect anything's wrong?
Yeah. So they went into this passageway that is looking into the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street, which is just a random building. I thought that was where she lived. It's not. I don't know where she was. But they found the horribly mutilated body of Annie Chapman. She was lying on the ground between the steps and wooden fence in the area. Her head was turned towards the house, and her clothes had been tugged up above her waist, exposing her red and white striped stockings. So, it looks sketchy already.
I mean, yeah. He's being a perv.
Yeah, I don't know who pulled it up yet at this point.
Oh, that's true. Somebody could just be fucking nasty.
Yeah.
This is Whitechapel.
So, a kerchief was tied around her throat. She had been wearing this when she was attacked, but a lot of people kind of came up with rumors that the killer tied it on to stop her head from rolling away.
People fucking suck.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. Her face and hands were covered in blood. Her hands were raised and bent with the palms towards the upper portion of her body, which gave the police kind of the idea that maybe she had been more in a defensive type state, like she was trying to not die. So she was being attacked.
It's not funny. It's how she said it.
Yeah. Well,
she was trying to, not die.
Well, when we saw the first victim, Mary,
yes.
or Polly, she was kind of just in a lump.
Yeah. I feel like hers was kind of like I get this intuition that hers was just like a surprise attack more than anything, and she didn't really have a moment.
Exactly.
Whereas it seems like Annie was like ready to throw the fuck down.
Annie did not want to die. I mean, I'm sure Mary didn't either, but I'm pretty sure she was not aware that she was being murdered until she was actually fucking dying.
Another good point is there any evidence that Annie was intoxicated? Because if we remember right, Mary was fucking schnockered beyond belief. So that could play part to that fact that she, like, was completely unaware that this was happening and why she was just kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, I don't know. I know they were trying to get statements of people seeing her throughout the day, but she was just, like, walking around.
Gotcha.
I don't think it said explicitly that she was, like, shit-faced running around.
Gotcha, okay.
Another one of our victims, though, was, like, disorderly and got arrested, right? That was Mary? Was that Mary?
No.
Oh, well, I thought that's what you said.
No, she was just fucking shit-faced.
Oh. She got turned away. She got turned away somewhere.
Oh, yes, she got turned away from her lodging house.
Well, I think somebody else gets arrested, so...
If I remember right, they do. So, speak.
So...
And what time of year was this again, really quick?
This was September.
Okay, so it would be getting fairly cold at night, so the rigor mortis could have set in really quick to make her hands kind of freeze in that position. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's late August, early September. So it depends.
What's the temp like in England at that time of year?
I don't know. But yeah, so this guy found the body. He's like, we're calling the police! So they call the police. They come over. They were like, yeah, this is fucked up. We need a doctor. We need the police surgeon to come look at the body.
Great assessment.
So by the time the doctor shows up, it's around 6:30 a.m. And the crowd outside of the house was several hundred strong.
Yeah, I was expecting that.
There is nothing to do in Whitechapel.
And people have no manners.
They have nothing to do. No life. Let's go.
Yeah. This was probably the highlight of their life, sadly, So, yeah. At this point, they thought the woman was still alive. How?
I don't know.
They're like, she hasn't moved for several hours.
Yeah,
but
they thought... Well, it's only been 30
like
minutes
petrified?
since she was found.
Oh, never mind. Sorry.
Yes. It's only been 30 minutes. There's already hundreds of people here. The police got there at around 6 o'clock whenever the old man called them. And then... And I'm not saying, like, phone call. I'm saying, like, somebody ran and got the police.
Hello. Is anyone alive out there?
So, yeah, this doctor looked at her and was like...
so confidently.
Well, this doctor was like, yeah, this woman is beyond medical help. And that's him saying, she's fucking dead. And this is his testimony of what exactly he recalled, okay?
Is this part where it gets gruesome? Or is this just him being a fucking idiot?
No, it's pretty gross.
Okay.
The left arm was placed across the left breast. The legs were drawn up, the feet resting on the ground, and the knees turned outwards. The face was swollen and turned to the right side. The tongue protruded between the front teeth, but not beyond the lips. The tongue was evidently much swollen. The front teeth were perfect as far as the first molar, top and bottom, and very fine teeth they were. The body was terribly mutilated. The stiffness of the limbs was not marked, but was evidently commencing. So we're going into the stages of rigor mortis.
Yeah.
He noticed that the throat was dissevered deeply. Once again, cut deep on her throat. Mm-hmm. The incisions through the skin were jagged and reached right round the neck. Jesus. So almost her entire head was basically cut off.
That's awful.
On the wooden paling between the yard in question and the next, smears of blood, corresponding to where the head of the deceased lay, were to be seen. They were about 14 inches from the ground and immediately above the part where the blood from the neck lay. So, she's in a really weird position.
Yeah, that's not comfortable. So, I wonder if, like...
She's, like, in a weird frog stance.
I mean, I was picturing, like, how they make you sit at the gynecologist.
Yeah, it's like that. But I think her feet are, like, flat.
I'm picturing, like, her feet are up, like, under her butt, and her legs are, like, woohoo!
Yeah, because her knees are, like, out.
Yeah.
But it says like, her feet resting on the ground doesn't really say where the feet are. But she's, like, splayed out, basically. And her dress was kicked up, so her underwear and everything was laid bare for everybody. Which is fucked up. Lady. But later that day, the postmortem would reveal that the killer had also happened to cut out Annie Chapman's womb and ran away with it.
As one does.
Yeah.
If that's the case, do you think, since no one was around, like, we don't know how long it took before that witness fell upon her, do you think he might have staged her?
Oh,
since
most likely.
it wasn't discovered, until well after.
I think most of his victims
performed a full hysterectomy.
Yeah, I think most of his victims he strategically did manipulate their bodies to look a certain way.
For shock factor.
Because if you look, we'll look at the pictures, but a lot of them have their legs up in that weird frog position.
Interesting.
And some of the victims, we'll talk about it later, but some of them were, like, disemboweled. Some of them had their uteruses ripped out. Some had, like, kidney removed, I think. Either kidney or liver, but it's in here.
I want you to know that every single piece of my body that she just mentioned clenched uncomfortably. I'm like, ooh, protect that, like, very uncomfy. But we're very sad about Annie. Very sad. She was
this
a
is
lovely,
awful.
lovely woman.
Yeah. So at that point, Dr. Phillips, the police surgeon, pronounced her dead, and he ordered that she'd be removed to Whitechapel Workhouse Infirmary in Eagle Street, which is off Old Montague Street. So he's like, she's fucking dead. Take her away.
Jesus.
We gotta like clean her up, whatever.
Treat her properly not have all of her bits
and bury
displayed.
Her. Yeah.
For 700 people to see.
Yeah, basically. So now we come to a really big part of the murders. And this is what many call the double event.
Double event! Are we gonna look at the picture of Annie first, or all of them at the end?
We can look at all of them at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if we were gonna, like, ease into the trauma, or just, like,
no,
pile it on.
We'll look at the pictures and, like, talk about it at the end.
Alright.
Because the last one, I'm telling you all, you are not prepared for the last one. It is the most fucked up thing I have ever seen. It's so hard looking at the picture to understand that that is a human.
Is it similar in the sense of, I'm sure you've probably seen the crime scene pictures of the Black Dahlia. Is it similar to that where you're like, nah, that ain't a person? Or is it worse?
It's literally like, that looks like a doll that they stuffed with straw.
So it's the same.
And threw animal guts everywhere. It is so hard to distinguish that that's a person. Except you see her fucking head.
Okay, so it's similar to the Black Dahlia, but add a lot of blood.
Yeah, it's very disturbing. Okay. But let's talk about the double event.
Yes.
2 murders which occurred just hours apart on a fateful night of September 29th, 1888. So it was September 29th to the 30th. It's like right in that weird late
like
night,
happened at
early
like midnight
morning.
Or something, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot going on here. At this point, the public is panicking. There is mass hysteria around all the Ripper murders happening. And this throws everything into the fire. This becomes a fucking bonfire after this event.
It's because it's a fucking shit show. Like, the chances, like, I'm sure we all have heard some things about the double event, but there is, like, literally a 95% chance that the killer walked right past the fucking detectives and they did nothing.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. And residents of the East End of London were scared to walk alone at night after dark.
Which is a problem, because most of them live on the fucking street.
And also, the fact that this is September, so the days are starting to get longer. It's starting to get dark earlier. And
that's true.
People literally titled this point of time the Autumn of Terror.
Yikes. Okay.
Like,
that sets the scene.
People are scared. Deeply scared. So let's talk about the first victim of the double event.
Yes.
Originally named Elizabeth Gustafson. Gustafson?
Okay. Gustafson?
There's an I in there? I don't know.
Whatever you fancy.
She's Swedish. Her name is originally Swedish.
Was she an immigrant?
I'm sure if not her directly, her parents probably were. Yeah. I'm assuming she came over from Sweden.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it seems like her original home life was probably not good because by the age of just 21 years old, she was already registered as a prostitute in Gothenburg. So, after her mom died in 1860, or sometime in the 1860s, Elizabeth used her inheritance money to travel to London. Oh, okay, so I answered my own question.
When we don't wait for the hook.
Yeah. So Elizabeth used her inheritance money from her mom, who died in the 1860s, to travel to London from Sweden. So she was given stuff from the Swedish church.
Gotcha.
Basically to survive, like food and clothes.
Gotcha. I was going to say, so it was like an old-timey, like, soup kitchen.
Yeah, basically. And then she began working in service in the West End. She married John Stride in 1869, and despite having a lot of respectable jobs, running coffee shops and Poplar, stuff like that, their marriage failed in 1881, and John died pretty soon after that. So, at this point, she's like,
say what you want.
Gonna be a prostitute again, basically.
Yeah. She was for the streets, okay? Who cares?
I think it was just easy at that time for a woman to be in sex work because there's not easy, but it's the first thing you can do.
It is, like, literally one of, like, 5 things, so.
Yeah. But also...
Whatever.
But also, like, prostitution has been around for so long.
Mm-hmm.
In
yes, it's
all
risky
cultures.
Work, but it works.
Like, it is, like, one of the longest running jobs.
Mm-hmm. That and banking.
Well, not even that. I would say, like, labor of some kind.
Oh, of course.
It's like labor and prostitution. Farming.
War.
Huh?
War. Military.
Yeah, wars. Yeah. So.
Literally sex, drugs, and violence. That's
basically
what it comes down to.
So she's working again as a prostitute after her husband died. She's living at 32 Flower and Dean Street. And she earned the nickname Long Liz.
She got those really long, luscious legs. Maybe she was tall for a lady. Who knows?
I don't know.
Or she had, like, really long hair. It could mean so many things.
It could literally mean anything. But we'll never fucking know. Like, what was the other nickname? Black Mary?
Henry Hawker.
No, well, Henry the Hawker, yeah. I'm asking the other lady, the first victim, was like Black Mary or something.
I don't remember what it was.
But yeah,
I'm all have still stuck on Henry Hawker.
So
sorry.
At this time, she's gone back to prostitution. She has a highly fractious relationship with a man named Michael Kidney.
Okay.
She lives with him on an on and off basis, so they're in a pretty tumultuous relationship.
So she was not a prostitute. She was an escort. Okay, she was getting room and board. Okay.
Well, it doesn't say that Michael was like paying her. Whereas another victim literally has someone like that who was like constantly paying her and like telling his life to her.
I say know your worth, sis.
Yeah.
Like, do what you got to do.
So, one of the last sightings of Elizabeth was by a man named Israel Schwartz. he saw her apparently being assaulted at the entrance to Dutfield's yard.
Okay. Is this a street? Or is it a park this time?
Honestly, I think it's a street. Because they call yard street, right? I don't even know. We talked about it in the previous episode. Yeah. We still don't know.
England, we are confused.
Explain! So, this woman's being assaulted. Somebody's seeing her being assaulted. And the man who's assaulting her shouts an anti-Jewish insult.
Yes. Anti-Semitism.
Yes. Which scared Schwartz off. And as soon as he kind of walked or ran away, he was then followed down Burner Street by another man who had been lighting a pipe outside the Nelson Beer house. And we'll come back to that information in a couple minutes.
Okay.
So Elizabeth was found dead from a cut throat, much like the other victims, just over 10 minutes later. Mm-hmm. They could have stopped this if there were more people out and about.
But because they got called a nasty name, they let the woman get beat up.
Well, it's not his fault entirely, you know. I would be scared.
I'm not saying accept racism and discrimination.
No. But if somebody's being assaulted, that's the type of thing where it's like, don't ignore it.
Let sticks and stones break your bones and words will never hurt you. You know, like, maybe just kick it up a notch. Just that one time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, if she's getting literally, like, the shit kicked out of her and he just calls you something really mean, kind of weigh those odds and see what one might be worse.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of person Schwartz was, so I don't know. Maybe he just didn't care. Either. Maybe he was like, that's not worth my time. I don't know. But
he literally said, not my circus, not my monkeys.
So she was found dead laying in the exact gateway where Schwartz had seen her. So we can assume that the person assaulting her was Jack the Ripper.
Yes.
But some questions did arise later that we'll talk about. Her body was discovered by Louis Dimeschutz, the steward of the International Working Men's Educational Club, which was a Jewish anarchist club.
Okay.
Just next door from where she died.
Just next door.
I literally don't even really know what that means, so I think we should just move on from that.
I feel like it's probably like an up-and-coming, like, men's society where they go and, like, sip brandy and smoke cigars.
I don't know.
I
can't tell you what a Jewish anarchist club is. Is that against or for? I'm so confused.
That's a valid point, because I'm like, oh, it's a Jewish anarchist club, you know, whatever. I'm like thinking like pro-Jewish people. So I'm like, why was that man shouting anti-Semitic things right next to the...
Well, let's look it up now, because I'm curious.
We are confused.
Nothing about this makes sense. So, yeah, if people know...
Please tell us.
It was founded by well-meaning middle and upper-class people, which, at that point, well-meaning, who the fuck knows what that means?
Who defines what well-meaning means at that time? So...
Okay, so it's related to people who are Jewish. Okay.
Oh, okay. So it must be pro-Jewish people.
I would assume so, but not sure. If you guys know, let us know.
So there was really just this one asshole who was literally standing outside the building, like the people at Planned Parenthood shouting.
Yeah.
In the middle of the fucking night.
That's what it seems like. If we're interpreting that correctly, that's what that is, yeah. Okay. That's fucked up.
That's classy. Okay.
So at this point, they haven't been like, oh yes, all these people are being killed by the same person. So... Yep.
We'll get into that tomorrow.
They were like, oh, this is an unfortunate victim of a violent customer or a local gang, perhaps the man that Schwartz saw was a gang member.
I'll let you in on a little hint for tomorrow. At the beginning, they think all of this is gang-related.
Which
anti-Semitic, gang-related.
Yeah. Okay. Weird. Just weird. But her throat was pretty slit. That shit was also just fucked up. So they were like, okay, maybe this is this person. Maybe. They had like 5 different names for Jack the Ripper also. I don't know if you're going to talk about that.
No.
Because I think there was a different serial killer around that time, like the Leather Apron Butcher. Is that what it was called?
I'll talk slightly about that one.
Okay. So I'll just give just a keynote. If you ever hear that, I think it's a completely separate serial killer. Or it's like debatable. A fable? I don't even know.
We'll talk about it.
Okay. But yeah, they were like, it's the Leather Apron Butcher. And then they came up with this name, which I think he came up with his own name, really. But we'll talk about it
tomorrow.
So at this point, they're like, okay, her throat's pretty considerably slit. Some of these other things match everybody else. Okay, we're looking at somebody who's doing the same thing.
We were like, can you imagine? Maybe this could be the same guy. And then some asshole over there is like, no, not possible. How do you kill more than one person? Nah. Yeah.
So,
tell me more about Elizabeth and her tragedy.
Honestly, there's not a ton other stuff because Schwartz had been there and looking at the blood on the cobblestone around her body, it wasn't dry and it wasn't clotted. So they think that Schwartz interrupted the Ripper.
The kill.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So by Schwartz interrupting him initially, that caused more of a struggle, probably. And then when Dimeschutz found her, or maybe it was when he came out, maybe he was still killing her, it was kind of halted. So he really only got to slit her throat, basically. Which is not bad compared to the other ones.
Yeah!
But there was so much debate, fabricating of stories, overall speculation of Elizabeth's death. People were making up so much shit. So much shit that I didn't include because I was like, this is bullshit. People are just making up shit. They were saying that they were Elizabeth's sister and that they knew all this stuff about her, and she did not have a sister in the area. Like, they were just making shit up.
People suck.
And people were like, okay, who was the man who was lighting the pipe following Schwartz? Like, is he an accomplice to the Ripper? Like, there's so many questions at this point already coming up.
Like, it literally could have just been some random dude that, like, also turned down the alley. So...
Well, we'll probably never find out what the truth was.
I can guarantee you, we probably will never find out.
At this point in time, it's like...
There's no way.
It's like 140 years, right?
Yeah.
About that. Let's talk about the second victim at the double event.
The more important thing here.
Yes. So, our fourth Ripper victim at this point. That we're aware of. That's canonical.
That is a good point.
At the time of her death, Catherine Eddowes, a.k.a. Kate Kelly, completely fucking different name.
Yeah.
She is 5 feet tall, flat.
Oh.
Has hazel eyes and dark auburn hair. And what's really interesting is that she has a tattoo in blue ink on her forearm, which just says TC.
Okay.
And
did they describe her as flat?
No, I said 5 feet flat.
Oh, like I was
even.
Like, damn, that's insulting. I'm like,
no.
She got, like, murdered gruesomely, and they're like, she's flat as fuck. I'm like, damn! Like, cut the girl a break. Jesus.
No.
But she a little shorty, okay? 5 feet?
I think most people were short. At the time of her death, she was suffering from Bright's disease, which is a form of uremia. It is an inflammatory disease of the kidneys, now known as acute glomerular nephritis.
Makes you have to pee a lot, if I remember right.
I don't know. Doesn't say. But
doctors, tell me if I'm correct.
Do we have doctors that listen to this? I don't know. We might.
I hope so.
If you're a doctor, pop off.
Please do. A nurse. Someone who might know.
Yeah. Friends spoke of Catherine as being highly intelligent, very scholarly, but also someone who had a very serious temper.
Oh. So she was a Capricorn.
Yeah, basically. This is probably one of the most ironic kills because Catherine was released from Bishopsgate Police Station in the early hours of September 30th, 1888.
Yeah.
And mere hours before, she had been arrested at Aldgate High Street for being drunk and disorderly.
Yeah.
And since she was found within the boundary of the City of London, her arrest fell under the remit of the city police. And the city usually released drunk people from cells once they've sobered up. But if she had been arrested a little over 100 yards away, she would have been in Metropolitan Police territory. And if she had been arrested there, they would have held her until morning.
That really sucks.
So 100 yards determined her fucking fate.
Yeah, no, that's awful.
And if she had been picked up by the Metropolitan Police, she would have never met Jack the Ripper. It's crazy.
Yeah. But if you think about it, if it wasn't her, there's a strong chance it would have been someone else anyway. So.
Yeah, that's true. So Catherine was born in 1842 and was originally from Wolverhampton, although she spent much of her life in Bermondsey. And here's where we understand what TC represents. Okay. She had been in a common law marriage to Thomas Conway.
Oh.
And that relationship produced 4 children and 1 grandchild. However, it kind of fell apart because Catherine was an excessive drinker and Thomas was very violent.
Yeah.
It could have been either or of those things or both of them. The stories kind of differ depending on who in the family was telling the story.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure.
So she came to Spitalfields, and people don't actually know if she was a prostitute.
Oh, okay.
So, she did have a partner at the time of her death. His name was John Kelly, and he was pretty adamant that she never earned a living from prostitution within their 7-year relationship. So she's like a long-term relationship type person.
Which is cute.
They'd been living together at 55 Flower and Dean Street. The last time Kelly saw Eddowes was during their afternoon, September 29th. She had no money, and she said she was going to see her daughter to borrow some money. Mm-hmm. She never actually made the visit to her daughter. Okay. And she somehow made enough money later that day to drink enough to earn her stay in the police station. So they don't know how she got the money. It's not implied. People say she wasn't a prostitute, but she somehow got the money, but didn't even see her daughter. So I don't know. It's up in the air, really.
I mean, people were begging for money too. So
yeah,
it's possible. But I think I know what my thought is.
I think I also know what my thought is, because on that evening, she was seen by 3 men prior to her death. She had been seen talking to a man at one of the entrances to the Mitra Square, which was only about 10 minutes before her body was discovered. So she was either talking to Jack the Ripper, like, being like, hey, I need some money. You want to do this? Or she was just talking to some random dude. I don't know.
Maybe she was just a good conversationalist and people were like, thank you for your time.
Perhaps. Yeah, it doesn't say really anything one way or another about her personality besides she had a temper and she was smart. So, I don't know.
Maybe she was fucking tricking these people.
Maybe she was a con man. Con woman?
Con artist.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm here for it. Go, Catherine.
So, Catherine's body was discovered by P.C. Edward Watkins of the city police at 1:44 a.m.
Okay.
Her body was found lying in the darkest corner of the Mitra Square. This area was extremely isolated, poorly lit, and was lined by a bunch of tall warehouses. So...
Oh, terrible place. Okay.
Basically, going in here, if somebody killed you, you wouldn't be found for a little while. Mm-hmm. Her throat had been cut to the spine.
Jesus Christ, that's a lot.
Her abdomen was completely cut open, and portions of her intestines were found around her body. He strewn them about.
That's awful. That's fucking terrible.
Her face had been delicately cut with various seemingly deliberate incisions.
Okay.
And probably the most disturbing part, her uterus and left kidney had been extracted and removed from the scene of the murder.
Okay.
So this is the second victim who've had their womb cut out.
Complete hysterectomy, yeah.
Which is very disturbing because he's taking them and we don't know what he did with them.
Yeah, who fucking knows? I don't even want to think about it, honestly, because I don't want my brain to go there. I picture things in my head, so I don't want to think about it.
Yeah. So, in just 10 minutes, he intercepted her, committed all of these really complicated, horrific, wounds and taking of organs, and made his getaway without being seen or heard. The murder was quick and silent and did not disturb any of the people who were in the buildings around it.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly disturbing, which means he worked in complete silence to rip out her intestines, slit her throat to the fucking spine, and cut her face. Like, little cuts all over her face that he did with his fucking knife.
I really wish for her sake that she went very quickly and was not, like, laying there in so much pain, but because her throat was cut to the fucking bone, she couldn't make any noise.
I would assume that they died pretty quickly because he's probably, like, sawing on their throat, because I don't think it's been said yet, but it was said that they think he used a Liston knife, which is a knife used in amputation, basically. Lots of earlier amputations. So it can cut through bone, and I'm sure it could cut through a neck very quickly if you're, like, sawing through. So, hopefully
remember how, for our photo shoot, you ordered a Liston knife, and it literally was so sharp that it went through the package, and we have no idea where it is.
Yeah, basically, I don't know who has a fucking Liston knife, but it was so sharp, it bust out the package, and I was delivered an empty package. It was amazing. So, keep
We're not
that in
even
mind.
mad about it. Like,
no, I thought it was hilarious.
It gives you a very good idea of just how sharp this tool is. So,
very good.
That's why I shared that story.
So, that was the double event. We have 2 bodies within the span of a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
And both pretty definitively killed by the same person in the same horrible way.
Yep.
And now...
the final victim.
The final victim.
Of at least the Canonical Five.
Which is probably the most fucked up. These have all been severely fucked up. This one's fucked up.
Yeah, I remember bits and pieces about this one, and it was terrible.
And this one's interesting because this was the only victim found inside of a building.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Jane Kelly is considered to be the final victim of Jack the Ripper. She died November 9th, 1888. Her body was found in her apartment at 13 Miller's Court, and her murder was definitely the most horrific of all, and her body was severely mutilated.
Mm-hmm.
You could barely tell this was a human. Compared to all the photos of everyone, I've looked at all of them, of every single victim, you can tell who they are from just about every single one. Mary Jane Kelly is so disturbing. If you feel like you can stomach it, I would say look up the pictures just to understand how horribly these women were murdered and mutilated.
But please do not scar yourself if you are the person who knows you can't.
Yeah.
Don't try and do it anyway. I'm talking to you young people that might be listening to
yes,
this.
You know who you are. Mary Jane Kelly's body was discovered in the room that she leased on Dorset Street in East London in the Spitalfields area, which is a slum frequently occupied by prostitutes and criminals.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not a good area.
No.
And because of the gruesomeness of her murder, police wanted to kind of stop any spread of rumors going across the entirety of Whitechapel.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, all the attempts that they tried to stop rumors from happening actually had the opposite effect. Yep. Because Kelly was so enigmatic that a lot of people embellished and made up a lot of contradicting details about her life. And this is probably one of the most interesting backgrounds, too, because much of the information we get about Mary Jane Kelly comes from Joseph Barnett, which was her most recent lover before her death.
Interesting.
So not even family, no friends, no people seeing her go around and doing stuff. It is all Joseph Barnett.
Okay.
So this is basically, like, one of her clients?
Yeah.
That she told her fucking life story to. It's weird.
But you know what? Maybe they were friends with benefits. He got
it's
sex,
interesting.
she got money.
Yeah, I don't know. But when Kelly was around 17 or 18, she moved to Cardiff, and after moving in with her cousin, she began selling herself on the streets. So, I don't know if she was a minor, or she was just young.
Minors aren't a thing at this time.
Yeah, but...
So, get rid of that modern 21st century appropriate approach to things, and just, like, think everything's fair game.
Yeah. So, Mary headed to London in 1884, and Barnett said that she worked at an upscale brothel when she first appeared. I don't know what an upscale brothel is.
She was young and pretty.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But
my guess is she was probably a virgin when she moved to London, so she got to work at this upscale brothel because she was definitely going to be able to make more money with that first client.
This is all according to some random guy who was fucking her before she died. So
maybe. Who knows?
But it was said that she had a life which was described as that of a lady.
Okay.
which means she had not a noble life, but a respectable life. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, and it's pretty unclear why, she wound up drifting to the dodgier East End. So, This was what I was saying. I don't know if prostitution was necessarily illegal because they have these upscale brothels.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But now she's seeing the more sketchier side of it.
I wonder if it was, like, if you worked in a brothel, it was legal because, like, you were essentially a registered prostitute, sex worker, whatever you want to call it. But if you were selling yourself on the streets, if that's different.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know really anything about the time when it comes to sex work. Legality, at least. Once Mary moved to East End, that's when she started drinking heavily and developing an issue.
As one would.
One would. And she found herself living with a married couple for a few years, which was interesting. And
are we aware of what that situation was?
Nope. It just says she lived with a married couple. And then she left to live with a man, and then another man.
Okay.
After that. So, apparently, an anonymous prostitute reported that in 1886, she was living at the lodging house, which was another of those, like, cheap communal homes where multiple people shared rooms and common spaces, and Spitalfields, where she met Barnett.
Gotcha.
And they had only met twice when they decided to move in together, which was interesting.
All you ladies pop your pussy like this. Okay, that's...
However...
She had it.
Barnett's not a good guy. They were kicked They were kicked out of their first place for not paying rent and for getting drunk.
Yeah, disorderly conduct will do that.
Yeah. And that's how they ended up moving into this room on Dorset Street called 13 Miller's Court.
Yeah.
It was dirty.
What happens?
It was damp. There were boarded up windows and a padlocked door.
Charming. I don't know about you, but that just screams home sweet home to me. So
I want to see it in Better Homes magazines.
Let's put a welcome mat out front.
It's wonderful.
Fuck you, Barnett. Pay the bills.
Yeah, basically. This guy's trash. I don't know about Mary, really. She never talked to her family. Her family's originally from Ireland. Mm-hmm. And she occasionally got letters from them, according to one of her previous landlords, but she didn't have a close relationship with them at all. So, what happened after the move to the Dorset Street address is so confusing. Nobody knows. People were saying Kelly wasn't prostituting herself, but when Barnett lost his job, she returned to it. And when Kelly wanted to share the room with a fellow prostitute, she got in a fight with Barnett over it, who subsequently left. And he didn't return to live with her. But he did visit her frequently, and even saw her the night before she died. Mm-hmm. He said he didn't stay long and left around 8 p.m., so he only went there to fuck.
He sent that you up text.
Yeah. Her whereabouts for the rest of the night, pretty much unknown, completely. Some people say they saw her drunk with another prostitute around 11 p.m., and another neighbor claimed to see her with a short man in his 30s, and another person said Kelly could be heard singing in the wee early hours the next morning. So, we don't even have a time frame of when she fucking died. There are so many conflicting reports of where Mary was and what she was doing.
You can't trust witness testimony.
No. However, sometime before noon on November 9th, 1888. So this is like a month after the double event. So it seems to be kind of like a month in between each big killing around there, which is interesting.
I want to know what the killer's trigger is.
Yeah.
That makes it so, like, this happens.
Yeah. I don't know.
Ugh, answers we'll never get, but...
Yeah. So her landlord sent his assistant to collect her rent, and he knocked. She didn't respond. He decided to look through the window. Upon looking through the window, he saw probably the most disturbing thing anyone could ever witness.
Yeah?
Her body, bloody and completely mangled.
Nice.
Police were notified, and once they arrived, the door was forced open, and they entered into probably the most horrific murder scene anyone has ever witnessed.
Great.
Obviously without the modern-day weapons, but still horrific nonetheless. In the practically empty room, Mary Jane Kelly's body was in the middle of the bed, her head turned. Her left arm was partially removed and was also on the bed. Her abdominal cavity was completely empty. Her breasts and facial features were cut off. And she was severed from her neck to her spine. Completely, just like all the other women. And her dismembered organs and body parts were placed in different areas around the room. And her heart was missing.
Oh, my God.
The bed was completely covered in blood, and the wall by the bed was splashed with it.
So he was just ripping those fucking organs out.
Yeah. So, at this point, when they were looking at all of the horrific things that had happened in this room, they were like, okay, he has a new murder weapon. Because the blood was splashed on the wall, it is assumed that, along with the Liston knife, he used an axe for this murder as well. And I don't know why he decided to do this. I don't know if he knew Mary Jane Kelly personally somehow, because this is so much more gruesome than all the other murders. Or this was like his magnum opus.
Yes.
This is my magnum opus. This is his final murder, canonically.
Yes.
She was about 25 years old and was the youngest of all the victims. She had a pretty fucking hard life. She started sex work at 17 or 18 years old. And most of that point of her life was being a sex worker, struggling, being a severe alcoholic, and then murdered in this horrific way. It's very sad.
Pretty tragic.
So, that sums up our 5 canonical victims of Jack the Ripper. It's clear that all of the victims have some similarities. We're looking at 5 women, most of which were women of the night, as well as severe alcoholics. Most of the women had their wombs ripped from their bodies, or their parts of bodies that have sexual connection, I guess. Like breasts, womb, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Faces. Those were all mutilated. To me,
he very clearly has a victim profile.
Yeah, to me, this signifies, in my tiny little monkey brain, that the killer probably had some pretty horrific mommy issues.
Oh, hell yeah. He was either A, a misogynist, B, had mommy issues, or C, was sexually assaulted in some way by some type of sex worker. That's my guess.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. Perhaps he had an abusive alcoholic mother who sold her body to get by, and the Ripper was scornful for having been brought into an unjust and cruel world, because maybe his life sucked. Perhaps we have a female killer who held hatred in her soul for a woman of the night. Those who sold their bodies but bore no children, though they had the ability to. So maybe she was scornful because of that. Maybe this was a woman without the ability to bear children. Perhaps this was someone who just wanted to kill these women because they were minorities that would easily be forgotten. These people were not of any prestige and easy to go unnoticed.
Yeah.
However, it seems like prostitutes in this time weren't really looked at as disdainfully as they are now. So, I don't know.
It's a tricky situation.
It's really hard to get a pinpoint on this without having any real, like, evidence. Besides what you can infer from how these people were mutilated and murdered.
Yeah, like, it's pretty much all left up to people's own devices.
Yeah. Which is incredibly sad for these people who have never had closure on their deaths.
It really is.
So that's all I have for the victims. And in the next episode, Katie's going to delve into the investigation and evidence from these horrendous murders. So let us know your ideas and thoughts so far on social media. As always, our DMs are open, so feel free to send us a message.
We'll catch you tomorrow.
Yeah. Basically.
Don't look at the crime scene pictures.
No. I think we're good. We should just do that off recording.
Yes. Agreed.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
See you tomorrow.